liberate how you truly were feeling. And that's another thing too. I think for a lot of us men, we associate feelings with women as that's feminine. When truth be told, emotions is the most masculine thing that if we're going to put masculinity, like you want to be a real man, expressing your feelings, being able to embrace those feelings and be able to say, whether it's to you as my friend or to my wife, I'm not in a good place today. I'm that's part of the process is I feel ashamed even feeling this way, but I'm going to even feel more ashamed if I don't tell you that I feel sad today.
I just feel like you bring a different perspective to the table a lot, you know? How you been?
I've been good. You know, honestly, when you called me up and said you want to do another show with me, I was kind of surprised. It's like, felt like, old people don't get a second chance, No, I've been good. We're just, as a family, we've been doing good.
Yeah.
And I've been, making moves too.
You've been doing a lot of things. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Like really, really proud of you. Because I feel like you've done a lot of stuff since the last time we've spoken. You are a repeat panelist on the Blue Cross Blue Shield talks on mental health, which I want to talk a little bit about today.
Sweet.
You've done some really great work with Kev and Net Lifestyle. So shout out to you guys and everything that you're doing. And probably one of my favorite memories this year so far. And it's funny because I count years and like Elijah years now, right? Like, so Elijah just turned 1. So my favorite memory of his first year, one of them is going with you to the Cool Dad talk.
Yeah.
The Cool Dad forum that we had. And it was so great. And I'm just really proud of you for stepping in and leaning into your creative side, man.
Yeah, I think COVID-19 for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It took a lot of people back. It hurt a lot of people, not just from a financial standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I know like getting laid off, it definitely put me kind of like in a dark place in a sense, like just all the worries, you know? And to be honest with you, like, I told you this, like day you asked me to be a part of the show, or come on and be in a show, man, like I almost checked, like I literally almost canceled on you like 50 times. And a lot of it had to do. I'm so glad you did it. Well, I am too. A lot of it had to do with just fears. I think fears of getting sick, getting some other people sick. But then also like, what can I bring to the table as far as being on someone's show that has such meaning and has such deep meaning at that. But then like, I remember even pulling up like, man, I'm just going to say that I got a flat tire and I'm just going to say I can't come. But, I ended up getting out. And I think that's the thing about COVID-19 that for a lot of people, you've rediscovered yourself. And sometimes fear has a way of motivating you. And I'm so happy that I was able to come on the show because it was the best experience I ever had. Not just for myself, but for my family, my relationship with Josh, Daisy.
What happened with after that? We talked a little bit, but I don't know if you want to share that real quick.
Yeah, no. Like Josh, he watched it and Daisy watched it and it was very emotional for her.
Okay.
There's a couple of things that I said that got me in kind of trouble though. I think you mentioned like the whole like, oh Chris, come on now. Like I know you had game back in the days and I
look,
guess,
don't blame me for getting in trouble.
Andrew, I didn't even pay attention, but I had this like, yeah. Like, and it was stuff I was just reminiscing, like, yeah, you're right. I did have a game back in the days. And Dave's like, oh, you did, huh?
You're about to get in trouble again right now.
Watching Josh watch it was the most powerful thing because he was so taken back by it. But like little things, he was laughing and like you could tell he was just really channeling everything that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then he shared some really, really like deep stuff with me. And just let me know like I'm the best dad anybody could ever have and want. And, that was deep because, as guys, we have a habit of not really talking about our emotions and feelings like that. So, but with all that being said, like if it wasn't for me coming onto the show and being inspired by your creativity and how you go about your life and how you're trying to explore and take chances, I think that I wouldn't have been inspired to do the same.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, honestly.
It's one of the things about our friendship, our brotherhood, that I'm still learning, and you always are teaching me this, is like how to be comfortable taking a compliment, right? You know this. I'm very uncomfortable with it, and you are so giving with that.
I'm giving. What's up, Dewey?
Sorry, Dewey. Elijah has 3 dads. No, so it was cool to see you and Daisy watch that with Josh, because you guys were texting me when it was happening.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the first time I got to see how your son and your family received it. And I got really excited. One, because it's cool just to see the creativity get appreciated.
Yeah.
But then 2, I was fast forwarding to like, okay, well, you know, when Elijah watches this one day, what is that going to be like? You know what I mean? So I was getting really excited. But you touched on something. I want to just dive right into it. Of, you lost your job before COVID.
Yeah.
I know it put you in a weird mental spot. Like I said, I took a paternity leave to figure some things out for myself and my family, and my own mental health. And that put me in a weird spot. Not the same spot as you, but close.
It's the same.
Yeah, sure. So I wanted to dive into the idea or the concept of the male figurehead in the family, right? And then how did that contradict kind of what we've been sharing with each other this past month, a couple months even?
Ooh, I mean, it's so interesting that for a lot of men who, for many minorities, don't have other men that have been in their lives as fathers, we still have this society, I guess you can say, a stereotype that a man is supposed to be the head of the house.
Yeah.
Like the man is supposed to take care of everything, pay for everything, do everything, make the decisions for the house, the man of the house.
Yeah.
And for a lot of men out there, that switched because a lot of men lost their jobs unexpectedly. So, I think, honestly, I think that the younger generation is really finally starting to understand that women have not as much value, but even more value than men in the household in many ways. And that women should be looked upon as equal. Now, of course, society hasn't come around to that just yet, but you can see the movement.
Yeah.
And seeing it and experiencing it are 2 different things.
Yeah. So when you were going through it, were you able to introspectively see the friction points of what you thought the role was, where you stood in that role, and then kind of where the reality was? Yeah,
absolutely. Because I think that not even consciously realizing it, I was still part of that stereotype.
What do you mean?
Well,
like, were you?
I've always seen Daisy as equal, and I've always valued her hard work, and we've always made decisions together, right? But I still felt in my heart of hearts and in my mind that I'm the man of the house. So I ultimately have to take care of my family. So
and that's the role that you put on yourself.
The role I put on myself, because I've always believed or been led to believe that that's the case. So, but then at the same time, I'm a feminist, right? So I'm like, man, power to women. I hope to have a daughter so she could be the president of the United States and she can make just as much money or more money than men and blase, But then like, you're just like, I didn't have a job. And it's so crazy because not only did I lose my job, but my wife gets like this incredible promotion.
Yeah.
Right. And now, like, even if I would have had a job, I still was like, like, she's like, we're boom. You know what I mean?
Daisy's fantastic. Shout out to Daisy, by the way.
Yeah. I love you. But like, even that component, that's never been an issue for me. Like anytime like my wife has ever been successful, I know how hard it is for a woman to be seen as equal as a man. So anytime my wife has been able to elevate in her life, I've always been happy about it, right? Even if she's making more money, it's never been an ego check for me. But it did become an ego check when I don't even have anything to offer, right? So like you're having to like really evaluate your own insecurities.
Yes.
Right? And then most importantly, like not feel like if like I'm not gonna lie, I feel like every time like I'd go out somewhere or turn on the radio, like Scrubs was playing
from TLC.
Yeah. Is it Scrubs?
Yeah.
By TLC, yeah. Or what's that one song by Destiny's Child?
Soldier?
Paying my bills.
Bills.
Yeah, I feel like those songs kept playing. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
So like, and then and like, there was nothing on the radio, but I was hearing those songs at a point there. I was like, I hate you, Beyonce. Like, love you, Beyonce, but I hate you now. Like, you know what I mean? But I think that's just it. Like, I think that Josh said something that was really fascinating. And I don't know how the conversation got started, but he was saying how like, he doesn't know the man of the house. He doesn't understand the man of the house because he saw his mom pretty much raise him when she was a single mom, and she played both roles. Mm-hmm. So he just sees his mom in a totally different light. You know what I mean? So if that makes sense. So like for him, there is no man of the house. It's just we're all have like our responsibility to take care of the house together as a unit. And that's fascinating to hear from him because like that's going to be great for him when he gets older to see like it's okay. Like and here's the thing about being a man. A man is not necessarily how much money you make, or what type of job you have, or if you know everything. It's just about doing the right thing. And that's the hard part because then you got to figure it out. And also be able to admit and say out loud, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, especially when you don't even have a choice.
Especially if you don't have a choice.
Right? Like if you had a choice to step away from a position or a job or whatever, then there's a little bit of power in there. But when that choice is made for you and you lose that power to make a choice, right? It messes with your mental, right? And it's tough because I think it was Steve Harvey, and he was saying something like, men, when we meet each other, within the first 5 minutes, say, hey, how are you? What's your name? Next question is what? What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do? Right? Well, I want to know what you do for a living.
How much money you make?
I mean, that's what we're asking indirectly.
That's what you're asking.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that's how we identify ourselves in society, right? And we see this right now with COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how much you make does not necessarily mean how important your job is.
Right.
Some of the most important jobs in society right now are making minimum wage or less, right? And so it's so crazy that we've, over time, equated your job or your position in that job with the kind of man that you are. And that's something that I had to check for myself right now because, and you get this because you're a minority too, and I learned this. It was so crazy. I equated the idea of being a man with how much you sacrificed for your family.
Right.
Right. So if you had asked me a few years ago, do I want to be successful or I want to be happy? Like those are different sides of the scale. You can't do both. You have to be unhappy to be successful so that you can take care of your family. And then you could be happy 10, 15 years from now.
Right.
But having Elijah now changed that completely for me. Like, I didn't want to be unhappy in some things anymore. Like, it just wasn't worth the time loss.
Especially when you're coming home, right, from a long day's work.
Oh my, that's the biggest thing.
And you don't want, like, your sacrifices for you're working a job that's truly making you unhappy. And it's wearing down on you, and then you come home and you can't be like the elite father that you want to be.
Yeah, and that's not to say that I was unhappy at work. I think there's different facets of everything, and then it is what it is. But what was tough for me was so in my job, I'm very lucky. We get 3 months of paternity leave. It's unpaid, so you got to use your PTO and everything, right?
That's awesome.
It is. So when Elijah was born, I took a month off. And, I was getting itchy. I was like, let me go back to work. I'm ready to go. He's so little. Like, I'm not doing anything. And then COVID happens. I'm a manager. So, having FaceTime is very important for my job. But I realized, like, I'm working 6 days a week right now, sometimes 7. I'm working 10, 12 hours a day. I'm stressed. I'm not sleeping. And so when I'm home, Taylor is the most fantastic just keeping the house and the family together. And so I told my boss and Taylor, like, hey, I'm gonna take another month off, so I can see my son turn 1. And I felt so guilty doing that. Like it ate me up. I was like, is this a shitty move? Are you being a shitty guy right now? And then I had to tell myself, like, you're spending time with your son. Like, you're not going to get that back. And that's something, today was my first day back, and I still fought with it. You know, they would ask me, hey, how's your time off? And I would just automatically be like, I'm sorry, I took time off. You're really going to talk about this, right? Like, how do I get past that?
I think, first of all, it's basically peeling yourself like an onion.
Okay.
Because you have to understand why you have all these layers. Like, why do you feel this way? Like, what is it? And it could be a lot of different things. It could be the fact the way you're raised, the way you've interpreted how society, determines what a man is, to your own, like, fears and insecurities. Because I think a lot of times as men, we don't really face our fears and insecurities until it's too late. Like, until, like, we have no other choice but to face it. And usually that's not at the right time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like I totally can get how you could feel that way, because I felt that way.
I know you do, yeah.
And I can say this because I work in mental health. I've worked in mental health for a long time. And even as a case manager, like, I put in these 16 hours a day and come home, have nothing, because I've offered so much to people who can't help themselves, and I have nothing to offer my family.
That's emotionally taxing.
Beyond, but you feel like you have to make these sacrifices. Like, there's times where I would just pull up and work, like, I don't want to go in. But I'm like, okay, number one, I need to do this for my family.
Yeah.
I need to show, number one, my wife that no matter how hard thing is.
I was the same way. I was like, if I'm not putting in work right now, what kind of example am I being for my son?
Exactly.
Which is, I don't know if it's ass backwards or not, because I'm so young in this fatherhood thing, and talking to my dad, he doesn't have regrets, but he also is, like, very conscious of the time that he did or didn't have.
Yeah.
Recently, we've been having some talks, and it's just the way in my mind I chalked up today when people asked how my time off was I felt guilty about it. I don't regret it at all. I had to learn to be selfish for me. Otherwise, it was going to put me in a spot where I wasn't going to have an option down the road, because I was not happy.
Your son just turned 1. And here's a parallel. Like, I remember telling Josh, and this happened last year. This is me coming home from a long day of work, and I actually left work at like 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I come home, I was really tired, and I woke up the next day, and he was just like, hey, I'm really, I'm sorry you had to work late like that. And he was just like, he said something, and then I quickly said something to him, like, but, like, that's what life's about, man. Like, you sacrifice, and anybody told you that a job is fun is somebody who doesn't understand responsibility. But then right then and there, I felt like a hypocrite. And I also felt like what I was saying was a bunch of bullshit.
Why?
Well,
I mean, I think I see where you're going, but why?
Because this is like there's one thing to be accountable and irresponsible.
Right, we'll talk about that.
Right. And anytime you, like a job, when you say you're going to go to work, you go to work and you do your best job, because that's the moral thing to do, and that's what integrity is based on, right? But the moment you're doing a job just to do a job because you feel like you have to, because it's what makes you a man, is the moment you miss what being a man is really about. Because if I'm telling my son to follow his passions and follow his dreams, the ideal is that I need to set the same example in that way too.
Yeah.
And like, listen, you could have the best job in your life, right? You could have the job you've always dreamed about. You're still gonna have to put in the work. Yeah. And you still gotta make the sacrifices. But what makes it feel good is because it's your passion. It's something that you truly believe in. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to work every day and you don't believe in what you're doing, you just believe that this is the process, then it's gonna be so much hard for you to set the example for your son when it's time for him to work, because then he's going to think in his head, like, I just got to find a job, no matter if it's something I want to do or not. And just, that's what being a man's about. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's some components of it that's true, but there's also some components of it that's misleading, because like ultimately your happiness always starts with you. Right? Like we can agree, no one else can make you happy. No amount of money can make you happy. Being married to this person, that's not going to make you happy unless you're truly happy within yourself. And a lot of us are unhappy because we're pursuing and doing things that was never our dreams and passion to begin with. Yeah. But we felt like we had to make that sacrifice. The thing is, you can take those same components, the sacrifices that you're making, and apply it to your dreams and your ambitions, no matter what age you are. Like, think about this. Like, how many people make fun of somebody who's 90 years old but graduates from college? They go back to college, right? Yeah. Like, that was their dream and passion. Yeah. You know, when you hear that you're never too old, you really are never too old to follow your dreams and make something true. As long as you can breathe, you have the ability and time to make it happen. It's just, are you willing to make it happen? Because then the thing is that when you have that job that's not your passion and it's paying the bills and taking care of your family, the ideal of stepping away from that makes you insecure, because now, okay, if I follow something that's my dreams, is it selfish, right? Because I have a family, I have responsibilities. Also, like, is this the right time? And most importantly, if I do something and start all over and pursue my passions, will I be able to provide for my family? Yeah. But see, that's where it comes in as men. If you have a good woman, if you have a woman that understands your ambitions and understands your dreams, she would rather see you pursue that than continuously go into a job where you're truly miserable. Yeah,
this is where I am really appreciative of Taylor. And we're joking downstairs about how we've been together for a while, but it's really not a whole long time.
Yeah, you guys have been together for 28 years? Then you're telling me?
Yeah, in a past life. And, Taylor was my best friend before we started dating, right? So we had that good friendship. And this past month was taxing on us, or up before that month, because I was just so stressed with everything going on. And we were laying in bed one night, and we had a really good moment for us in our relationship, where one night she asked me, we're about to go to bed, and she wants to talk. I'm like, about to fall asleep. And she goes, hey, are we gonna be okay? And I got really mad. I didn't express it because, I'm a guy, whatever. And I got really mad all day. I was like, what are you talking about? Da-da. And then this went on for like a day and a half, 2 days. And eventually I came to her. I was like, this is why I'm upset, is because right now I need you to say, we're going to get through this and I got you, not to question if we're going to be okay. Like, I need faith right now. I need you in my corner. And she goes, I'm always in your corner. I just want to make sure that we're thinking about this. And that's not what I meant. But that was a huge moment for us, because she didn't intend it to come off that way. But I think what she was really asking was, hey, in your next steps, are you doing it for you? Because if you're doing it for you, then we'll be okay.
We'll be okay.
Right? And I didn't take it that. My man splaining to myself was,
she's doubting you.
Oh my gosh. And I'm already trying to make these changes for us and for the family, and all these things. And she's like, does she not believe I can do this? Right. And that was a big thing for me. And you said something that was really important that I want to highlight, which is, I think there's honor and dignity in putting work in to provide bread, right? I think there's, don't
want to take that away. Don't want to twist it out. Yeah,
don't get that twisted. There's honor and dignity. So if you scrub toilets, or you're the trash guy, and you put in, and you're putting bread on the table, and there's a roof over for your kids, and you're saving up, and there's honor in that. I think where you're going with it is, if the bills are paid and you're trying to move up or continue to pursue something like that, that's going to continue to make you miserable. Why would you spend extra time on that when you could be putting that towards your passion, your dream, your family, whatever it is? Am I close?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's just it. Like, time, to me, time equals energy. Yes. So the amount of energy is the amount of time you're putting in anything. Yep. So if all of this energy you're putting into something is negative and it's draining you of your positive energy, there's no way that it could actually benefit you internally as a man.
Yes.
And then most importantly, your family. Because your wife, the one thing about our women is that, and if you have a wife or a girlfriend or someone that's special in your life, you know that if they're truly, truly in tune with you, they can feel when you're stressed, worried,
yes.
lack of confidence, insecurities. They can feel that energy, because I think men and women are very, very powerful, especially when you're in a relationship with someone, to give off those energies. So if you're coming home every day and you're just like covered from head to toe in a warm-up suit of just negative energy because of the unnecessary
just all
stress,
day crap.
Like, and that's just it too. And I want to stress this as I've said this as a minority man, that it feels like sometimes too that we take on more than we should at our jobs, and we put up with way more than what we should at our jobs, because we know that we no longer have the luxury to speak back or talk back or say something is wrong, because there's a possibility it could jeopardize like your paycheck.
Do you still feel that?
Honestly, I can tell you right now, there's been plenty of times that I know that the person or my supervisor or my director is talking to me in a way because they know I'm not going to say anything back. Because
that's unfortunate. I'm sorry.
I have a family. And a lot of people are like that. And I've experienced this since I've gotten married. I've experienced it countless times because, and I think that's for a lot of men out there, a lot of minority men especially, that there's times, and I'm only saying that because, I was just saying general men, but I'm focusing on minority men out there, because I think a lot of times we feel like we can't rock the boat, and rocking the boat is speaking out.
Yeah.
So speaking out on something that we see that's wrong, or we feel like the way you're talking to us is disrespectful, or just in general, like how you're managing is just absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
But I know I can't say anything, and I know you know I can't say anything because
that's unfortunate.
But it happens all the time. And so like even in that sense, it's like you're working a job where you don't even have a say so there at the job. Then you feel like you're working a job that you're not only do you feel like you don't have a say-so on what's morally right and wrong, but then you don't even have a say-so in your own personal life because you're working a job that you're really not even happy with. It's not even a job you want to. And then you still got to come home and be the spiritually uplifting father and spiritually uplifting husband.
Yeah.
That in itself is how men quickly fall into depression, how they get into ruts, how they quickly, get to the point where they're no longer opening up emotionally to their wives.
Yeah.
That's when you see your son, you should be playing with your son, but you're so in deep thought of just everything that's going on that now you're not even taking the moment to play with your daughter or your son because you're worrying about, man, I don't want to go to work. I gotta deal with this. I don't want to work this job, but I know I have to work this job. And so it's just an endless cycle that just wears and tears on you as a man.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. One, I'm sorry you've had leaders like that. That breaks my heart because I feel like I've made a career being in the military, like a leader, and then getting out. Like, that's the reason why I chose the jobs I chose is because I enjoy leading people, and I also feel like those kind of managers are the ones I try to take their jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So that
always.
Yeah, but that's exactly why I chose to be an officer in the armies, because I heard my boys have bad lieutenants, and I was like, well, if I'm halfway decent and I take their job, then they can't mess up any other guys. Right. And so that sucks that you had to go through that. But at the same time, I empathize with it because it's almost, I think we're saying it's like it's emasculating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like you can't feel like a man if you're being spoken to a certain way and then go home and all of a sudden you either are feeling less of a man or you overcompensate in the house. And it's funny that you mentioned with, I should be playing with my son, but I'm feeling a certain way. That's one of the moments I knew I needed this time, because there was a day when I was just stressed, something had happened or whatever. And, we're home and Tay was like, hey, do you want to give him a bath or do you want me to give him a bath? And I told her, I was like, you give him a bath. I don't want to give that energy to him right now. Right. And that looking back, like I just lost one bath time, and even now, like it sucks. It just sucks. So, but So now that you're in this spot, and I give you props, right? Because, you know, from what I understand, you've turned down different opportunities to continue to double down on your passion and your creativity.
Oh, and that's scary as hell.
But I give you so many props for that, because you're putting your money where your mouth is. You're saying, hey, I'm not going to go just get a paycheck. And because you didn't do that, you've been able to do different creative things. And I've seen you start to really get the credit you deserve for being in the mental health space, for being a creative, working in your marketing. Like, I'm really proud of you, man. And I wanted to say that. That's why I wanted to have you on. I wanted to tell you, like, that is inspiring to me, because I'm, you know, going through whatever changes, and to see you lean in on that it's motivating me.
Well, yeah, it got me all emotional now, man. So, everything in life happens for a reason. And there's people out there that are probably watching this right now, and they're probably going through way tougher situations than we're going through right now.
Yeah.
And don't even know how to formulate or how to even put together, you know, the right path to overcome these obstacles. But this is why it's so important that you surround yourself with the people God intended in your life.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer that like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Even when we're fighting, because we're always, as men, we have a bad habit of constantly going against the grain. Like, even when you're shaved, you're not supposed to go against the grain, technically. But like,
is that true? I don't shave.
You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. But like, at the end of the day, like you know, we're constantly fighting, even when I guess we could say we're always looking for the answers, and the answers come and go. But like, I just put in perspective. Like, I'm sitting at home, feeling really down on myself.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, hey, come to this show. I'm like, Andrew's like a sex symbol, and I'm this old dude. Like, why do you want
It's true. It's true.
It's so true. And then, you know, I do this show. At the same time, like, all these other things are just happening, right? To the point where, like, I get, you know, I've been kind of doing this. I've been doing this sports trap with John, and you know, he pushed me to get on the podcast with him and Qual, and then, like, you know, because of a good friend of mine, RV, shout out RV, cool dad. RV was like, this is during COVID when there's no sports, because we can't even do sports trap because there's no sports. But he's like, hey, we're watching this Last Dance, and we're doing this forum.
It's on Netflix right now.
We're doing, I know, it's so good. I'm gonna start watching it again because it's so good. But he's just like, hey, we're gonna every you know, after that Sunday night, that first Monday, we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna have like topics, and I do this with him, and I'm with a bunch of men that I don't even know. Yeah. And just so happens, like, one of those weeks we're going to talk about The Last Dance. Kevin's on there, and Kevin is the CEO and founder of Net Lifestyle. And he's on there early. I'm on there early. We start talking. I tell him I do marketing, and we just start hitting it off. And he's like, man, you know, I want to run this thing by you. Yeah. Which is SoToSeoul. It's a nonprofit organization that really focuses on
Can we just talk about that for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
So, explain what SoToSeoul is, and then I want to talk about your first run. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And just my thoughts on it. But what is SoToSeoul for everybody?
SoToSeoul is really, you know, Kevin created this project that really focuses on basic mentorship. Like, each one teach one mentality, the old school mentality, what takes men and women and puts it in the lives at risk youth, our youth who may not necessarily have the abilities or the resources, and it gives us a chance to mentor them in all different kinds of ways. Yeah. Now, of course, we have a lot of crazy projects that we're working on. Hopefully, once COVID-19 is no longer, like Donald Trump says, is just disappears, then it's definitely, we're going to be moving in the direction. But as we were formulating, coming with all these different ideals, we started actually thinking about working with Emancipation Park Conservancy. And those who don't know what Emancipation Park is, this is one of the most historical, most beautiful places in all of Houston. Yes. This is basically the first land that was able to bought by free slaves that that still stands, and this isn't a good third ward. So, with that being said, we reached out to them. We're trying to do this whole like campaign about cleaning up the park. Of course, because of COVID, we weren't able to doing that. But Kevin went back to the drawing board and saw an opportunity for us to do this career day.
Yeah.
Again, COVID-19 said, no way, you can't do COVID. You can't do that because of COVID-19. So we found a way to do a virtual career day.
That was cool.
And we were able to highlight the health field. And we had, a therapist, a recreational therapist. We had a director in healthcare administration. And then we also had a psychiatrist, a doctor come on there. And it turned out to be such a big thing because we had like 33 participants, and that's not even including the Boys and Girls Club that came on late to that.
Yeah.
So we have like these classrooms of kids that are literally watching and hearing,
You guys are the new Magic School Bus.
Man, that'd be awesome if we can be that. Because I think that's just it. Like we're living in a world right now where there seems so much, I guess you could say it seems so negative right now. Like,
sure.
That we have to think about our children and our teenagers, like how they must be feeling right now.
Yeah. And
especially in places where there's poverty and there's not a lot of, there's single parent homes, and there's a lot of places where there's not any mentorship, because there's barely mentorship then. I can only imagine now with COVID-19.
Yeah.
So now there's more, especially everything that we've seen with racial equality and the things that we've experienced just in the last, honestly, we say in the last couple of months, but this has been going on for years, that it's highlighted even more so with COVID-19. And where is the actual leadership that's in these communities that need it the most? So I think that's honestly what the premise of SoToSeoul is us coming together to mentor and help those who don't have a voice or are being overlooked. And that's the kind of the goal. But anyways, it was awesome. It was a great experience. And we have the opportunity to be doing multiple virtual career days. So we definitely plan on having a lot more different careers. And, we want the kids to understand, like, you may not be able to be a basketball player, you may not be able to be a rapper, a singer, but there's so many incredible jobs you can do that you can become passionate about.
Yeah.
If you love animals, you can be a veterinarian. Yeah. If you love helping people, you could be a social worker. You could be a therapist. You could be a doctor. Like we need, especially our young minority, boys and girls, to feel like they have not only abilities, but can impact society on a greater scale.
Yeah, representation and just seeing someone who looks like you in that spot.
Yes.
So powerful, because you can, I'm just speaking as a young Asian guy, like, I know, we're always meant to be doctors, lawyers, or like, doctors especially, but I never saw an Asian doctor until later, right? And then I was like, oh, that's real. Like, it's not just a goal, right? Or like, Asian millionaires, like we're quiet. We don't know nothing about them, So all these different things. And so I really enjoyed sitting in the SoToSeoul session, seeing the therapist talk and the engagement of the kids. Yeah. I was surprised because they're sitting in a room and I'm like, are they listening? Are they paying attention? And some of them are asking real questions like, hey, how much school did you have to go through? How do you deal with people who don't want help? How do I help them? Like these aren't questions like, how much do you make? These are real questions of how, if I want to go through this, what are the obstacles that I'm going to have to face, right? Like if I want to do what you're doing, what do I have to do? And so there's a real, actionable plan these kids are leaving these sessions with, which is powerful. And you're right. A lot of us are looking for community leaders to step up to do these things, but that's you, man. That's Kev. Like, you guys are the leaders. Don't wait for...
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys are the ones opening the doors right now.
And that's the go-to, is that, like, we have the ability to inspire one another.
Yes.
More so than ever before. And honestly, like, not just being leaders of a movement, but also inspiring the younger people to take what we're giving them and go further with it as far as leadership. Because each one doesn't mean, like, adults teaching younger people, but younger people can teach even younger people the
or
right
older.
ways, and older people especially. Like if you're not living life as a student first, then you're not in the classroom learning life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I think that representation is so important, but most importantly, we want these kids, and also too what we've been talking about. Like if you're just in general, like this is the opportunity right now that even with everything that's going on with COVID-19, to seize your opportunity to make change, not only in other people's lives, but also in your life as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like sometimes we get so lost in wanting to change the world that we forget that we have to start changing ourselves first. Because you can't impact the world unless you're at a place of true happiness and are content. So and I talk to so many people, and everybody always wants to do something that helps other people. And I always say this: what have you done to help yourself today? Because you cannot even think about helping someone else unless you've helped yourself today.
Amen. Yeah.
So like if you're going to a job that you hate and it's not what you want, then you got to figure that out, because you're not happy. Mm-hmm. You're not happy. And just for that, every other Friday, that's the only day you're happy. It goes by that quickly because you got to pay bills, right?
Right.
So then even from the component of, like, if you're a man, like understanding that if you have a good woman and she's able to hold the house down, then you aren't in a very blessed, and it should be an honor that your woman want to help you out and help you in a place where, you know, she can pick you up when you're down, because that's what a relationship is. You pick each other up when you're, you know, better or worse, right?
Yeah.
So being able to allow yourself to be vulnerable, and I think that's the key in all this is that we have to stop looking at vulnerability as a negative thing, but look at vulnerability as a positive thing. Mm-hmm. Because when you're vulnerable, your back's against the wall, that's when you're at your absolute best. I always feel that way. Like, I feel like that's when you really put in, you know what I mean? That's when you really make a conscious decision.
I would agree. I feel like, much like you, this past month when I've had some time off, I feel like I put a lot of things out, and hopefully some things are going to start paying fruition here in a little bit. But I feel like a lot of things were getting done. And let me ask you this then, right? So we talked in the beginning about the role of the man in the house, right? The man in the house is the phrase. And that's changing right now. And Josh, God, I love this kid, talking about how he doesn't even understand that phrase. Yeah. One thing I learned growing up, and I'm still debating in my head, right? Or I'm still grappling with, is the idea where one person has to lead. But that person can change, right? And so the example, and from the context in my family, it's a little bit different because my dad's in the military, so his career has to come first. Yeah. Right. And so now that he's retired, he's going to support my mom and whatever she wants to do, and she's put the time in, and they've collectively done that. And Tay has been really just, Andrew, whatever you want, we got it. You know, so that's kind of our dynamic. So it changes though, right? Like I'm not sure what I'm trying to ask here, but I feel like the concept of man of the house. Okay, let me make this more succinct. The Bible says something along the lines of, like, you know, the man leads the family through the church and all those things, right? But the woman is the family; she is the church, right? Like. And so to put in context, like, you can't lead without someone to follow. And from a social dynamic standpoint, the first follower is really more important than the first leader.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, no one else, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that dynamic and it changes, it goes back and forth. So I think I'm still grappling with it though.
I think,
help me out here, because
I think that when let's separate man and leadership.
That's the tough part. Thank you.
That's because I think that every man thinks they need to be a leader, but you can't lead if you don't know how to lead. Because there's a lot of men out there who are in leadership roles that are horrible leaders. horrible leaders.
Facts.
Because they don't know how to lead. So if you don't know how to lead and you think that leadership is based off of your manhood,
yes,
you're not going to lead your family the right way. Period. It's just like, you know, compared to like, you know, dogs. Dogs are pack oriented, right?
Yes.
So, but we also know that when you have a dog attaches to or thinks of you as a household as a pack. But if you don't set the tone as a leader, these dogs become out of hand, get out of control because they don't know how to lead, but they think they're supposed to be leaders, but they don't know how to lead.
Yeah.
So everything's always crazy. And then you have like the defensive dog that's barking and growling at everybody because he thinks that's what he's supposed to lead. You know?
This is why I talk to you, because you break it down like that. I think it's 100% right. Like separating the man from the leader.
Right.
Because, and also if you could be a decent leader, but it may not be your natural instinct. So absolutely. I also know men who are decent to good leaders at work, but when they get home, they turn it off. I don't want to be the leader anymore, baby. You got this.
Right.
Right.
And a lot of times, like, there's just, I think it goes down to, it has to be interchangeable and it has to be balanced. And I'm going to say this is like, all of us men would not be here if it wasn't for a woman.
Or a partner. Let's just say partner.
Well, no. What I'm saying is like a man's life was based off of a woman giving birth.
That's fact.
So already a woman has already sacrificed so much to give you an opportunity.
Yes.
In life. So like there should be a sense of the ideal of wanting to honor a woman. Yes. Worship a woman in a healthy way. Yes. Not in an unhealthy way. But you should already want to put your woman in front already. Yeah. I think for a lot of men, that's hard to understand because they haven't really gained appreciation that the things that they're formulating and even thinking about wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for a woman giving birth to them. Yes. So understanding, appreciating. I always say this: any man that's ever gone through birth, I think his life changes before his eyes. Facts. Because he realizes just like how powerful a woman really is. Insane. And I think too, for a lot of men, is that the ideal that a woman is stronger or mentally tougher. Go ahead, say it. It makes a man feel extremely insecure. It makes a man feel weak. There it is. So I think that when you look at all these different components, I think for a man, he feels like, well, a woman can deal with this amount of pain or can actually deal with birth. So I got to show her that I can be just as powerful as she is. So then he feels like he has to like, I'm the man. This is what goes. This is what I say. And it's just like, bro, and if you're going to really follow like the scriptures, like when it talks about a man leading his household, it also talks about a man being open and honest and thoughtful and caring with his emotions and feelings, and also understanding and catering and being loving to his wife and family. Yes. So if you're in tune with your wife, the whole equally yoked concept, then you're going to know how to make a decision with your wife, right? And know what's going to be the best decision for all of y'all. Not for your ego, but for everybody as a whole. And it is, and you know, like there's a lot of things in the Bible or just in religion in itself that can totally be misinterpreted. Sure. But I also think that we're living in a life now where, and I've said this, women in every part of society is the most oppressed. You look at any country, any culture, women are always treated in a way that's oppressive. Even today, like a white woman still makes less money than a white man, right? Yeah. Now that's slowly kind of changing and the balance of life, but you have to think about that. There are some women out there that are totally getting burnt and getting passed up on positions or having even fight a harder job. Like I talked about earlier about being a man with a family and having to like, you know, you have to hold in your feelings and can't say anything. I can only imagine how much harder it is for a woman trying to prove herself, not only to the men in her job to prove that she's a good enough leader, but then having to come home and prove herself to her husband that she can make sound decisions and that her feelings and opinions are just as important as his. Yeah. So like there has to be that equal balance. And I think that that's where like, you know, coming home and being a man, just being like, all right, babe, you're in control. Well, there might be women out there like that, but to me, a woman that is emotionally secure is also going to want a man that's confident, that's going to make decisions with her.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, no man, no woman should have absolute power. It should always be a joint decision making.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another thing too. Like, just like, you know, in the military, I'm sure like every soldier has a skill set that's needed on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And so just because your skill set is this doesn't make your skill set more important than the other skill set, because at the end of the day, you're going to need each other's skill sets in order to survive or complete the mission.
Right.
That's the same thing. I mean, that's what marriage is.
Yeah.
It's a mission. You got to overcome all these different obstacles, but you got to work cohesively together.
Yeah.
And if you're the type of man that's like, oh, it's my way or the highway, well, you've already lost. You've probably already been, you know, you've already been blown up by life in a sense. You know what I mean?
See, that's crazy to me because I think we talked about this. I'm not sure if it was on camera or not, how when I had a son that day, I realized the point of me having a son was to make him better for the world, or make the world better for him, right? At the same token, Taylor and me we're in love, but that shouldn't be the reason why we get married. Right? Like, we want to be married because we want to face the world together, to be on the same page, to be partners, you know, to tackle life together, right? And I think that's something that we're learning, because we're still starting to engage, right? Like, we're not getting married until March, but we've been together for so long. But every day that passes, it's a different thing. It's a difference. Every day we have to put work into the relationship. I'm seeing it's like, it's not just, hey, I love you. It's like, okay, we got to talk about some things. We got to come up with a plan for some things. Like, you know, when you ask me, are we going to be okay? What does that mean?
Right.
You know, like, we got to communicate. And it's just the idea that women are working so hard just to be at equal, right? And a lot of them are smarter than us.
Absolutely.
My boss's boss is a lady, and she is fantastic, right? So, you know, like 20 years from now, 50 years from now, do we become house dads? I would love to be a house dad.
I've been a house dad, and I can tell you, to all the house moms out there, this job is super hard.
Yeah.
Like keeping everything clean, organized. I got a puppy.
The house is cleaner when I'm home.
I'm not going to say it's true, but the point being is that I'm going to get in trouble again. See, you set me up, man, Jim.
I can't help it.
I have all these cool points, and then boom, I just ruin it right there.
Yeah, sorry.
No, but like at the end of the day, I think that's another thing too, is like we have to value each other's work.
Yes.
What we bring to the table. And
it sucks that stay-at-home moms don't get paid.
They should.
They should get an incentive check, right? Or like something.
I'd be trying to, like, you know, my incentives are different with my wife, but we'll leave that alone. That's on a point.
I'm not supposed to say that. Like,
hey, but truth be told is like I just think like I think men get up every day.
Yeah.
And they think that going to work and working a job that they don't like is like the ultimate sacrifice. I'd almost question that a little bit. I'd almost say that the ultimate sacrifice is a woman putting her dreams and ambitions aside and stay at home, not having any interaction with another adult because she's taking care of the kids, having to clean up other people's messes, having to cook and clean. Like, if you want to know
like the traditional or stereotypical.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the traditional stereotypical cause, like the ideal that there's men out there that come home and they have dinner on the table, their clothes are folded, their underwear are like so weird.
Who wears underwear?
That's true. That's a good point. But the ideal that that you're okay with your woman basically slaving all day at home while you work,
as long as the food's on the table.
Like that's her job. Like that's how people feel like they don't have value. That's how a woman at home feels like she doesn't have a purpose in life.
Can I tell you, it's interesting. So, Taylor, I don't know if she grew up like that. When we first started dating, she wanted to be that.
Right.
For me. She wanted to have food ready. She wanted to have the house clean. And what's difficult is that's not necessarily she's good at, but it's not like something like she's passionate about.
Right.
Right. So when like the dishes didn't get done or whatever, she would beat herself up about it. and be like, I'm so bad. I'm not taking care of you. And like,
I'm not a good wife.
Yes. I'm like,
how you know?
Relax. Let's just cuddle. Like, you know what I mean? I'll take care of the dishes, you know, whatever it is. Like, so it's just interesting. Like that's because they have their own gender rules that they're going to fight against, and we're trying to figure it out.
Absolutely.
too.
And this is stuff that's been embedded in generational. Like it's been embedded all of this generational that this is how a man's supposed to be and this is what a woman's supposed to be. This is what a man's supposed to do and this is what a woman's supposed to do. But nowhere in there did you ever hear from this generational stereotypes about what it's like to work cohesively together.
Do you think it's because we're in a new time where that's more prevalent?
I think that listen, I was just listening to something on the radio where people are just upset about like the way we've become cancel culture or the way the way the America's changing and how the roles are changing and how people are different. It's just like, you have to evolve. Just because you're used to the old way doesn't mean that it's the right way. And the whole thing is this, like, if you're doing something over and over again, you're always going to get the same result.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's the people who have thought outside the box in life in general have been the most successful because they found better ways. Yeah. That the people who in society who have done it just like that are the people who are reaping the benefits now. And it's a constant evolving. So that should be the same thing for a husband and wife, man, woman, separate from just a marriage. Like everybody should be evolving and wanting to, in their own personal life, prove that the earth is not flat.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So like as a woman's always been told that she's not strong enough as a man. But now we're starting to see women athletes that are so much superior as far as athleticism and strength and power. That's changing the game as we know it. Like I truly believe one day there's going to be a woman in the NBA. I used to be one of those guys that didn't think that could possibly happen.
Yeah. But
there's women out there that are that superior. Like they're just that. And men need to embrace that and respect that and not be intimidated by it.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, we're still human beings. Let's take the gender out. We're still human beings. And we're all trying to find a way to be better versions of ourselves. So we should support that as opposed to deny it.
That's interesting because I'm back in the reserves now and they're rolling out a new PT test.
Okay.
And it's different. So it's not like just the standard push-up, sit-up, 2-mile run. There's like some CrossFit type stuff in there. But traditionally, it was the score sheet. There was a male score sheet and a female score sheet. But they took that away.
Good.
They took it away.
I mean, that's a step where we need to go. And there's a lot of people out there that are bothered by that.
Yeah.
There's people out there right now that are just upset. I was actually listening to this discussion. I guess it's a discussion in the nation right now is that they agreed, I think 70% of the Boy Scouts agree that they're going to start letting girls into the Boy Scouts.
I thought the Boy Scouts were just done, period.
No, it's still around.
Oh, I thought they were going to shut down for being pedos.
Oh, well, that's not story. But like the guy who's on the talk show was obviously conservative, and he was just like, listen, we start taking out exclusivity, then we're changing the values of America's nation. And
I don't know why it has to be so like 0 to 100 though.
Well, like that's just it. Like, listen, I get it if you're the type of guy that says, I just want something just for guys because I want boys to mentor boys, right? I get that concept. But at the same time, there's a lot of boys right now on Boy Scouts that don't want to do Boy Scouts and they're being forced to do Boy Scouts.
That's a fact.
So if your daughter wants to be a Boy Scout because she likes the way Boy Scouts are and she wants to be taken, in her opinion, serious as opposed to just doing Girl Scouts, like that should be able to be allowed and we should be able to embrace that. Because the moment that you tell your daughter as a man that she can't do that,
oh, yeah, I didn't know about that.
That's the moment that when your daughter gets in the real world, another man's going to do the exact
and she'll accept it.
And she'll accept it for what it is. And the next thing you know
I didn't think about that.
The next thing you know it, she's at home folding some lame-ass dude's underwear thinking that that's the value of a woman.
And you know what's interesting thinking about that now is even if the Boy Scouts accepted young girls, I don't know how many girls would actually want to do it anyway, except for the ones that really want to do it.
Well, when it boils down to it, I think that's also to the fact that I think in that component, I think there's people out there that are afraid that you're going to have the whole gender neutral, where girls and boys don't identify as either or. And here's the thing, that's okay too. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to discover who we are. And
I just don't know why it's so 0 to 100.
But that's because we don't know how to compromise for anything. We can't compromise in relationships. We can't compromise in our own passions in life that we want to do. Like everything has to be like left or right. That's it. And then that's why if you notice right now, with everything that's happening in COVID-19, you have the people who are really taking advantage of the situation and finding new alternatives, finding new ways of life, finding ways to tap into the creativity, finding new ways to find new jobs. They're spending more time with their family than ever before. I was just talking to John, just how much how COVID-19 has really helped him and his wife like really bond even closer, right?
I love that.
So there's people out there that are really taking a negative turn to positive. And then there's other people that are just like the opposite, 360, where the world's changing. You're not going to make me wear a mask. You should wear a mask. Like it's so crazy, but no one's trying to find a healthy compromise that just makes us generally better people for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't know we were going down this road, but I agree. I feel like some, and
Sorry
also,
if I went down
no, it's fine. But I also feel like people are fighting battles just to fight battles. And when we talk about cancer culture just in general, I feel like some people are just going after shit. Like they're not even realizing, not even just cancer people, just like stuff in general. Like,
yeah.
Like not even, here's a good example. Okay. So we're taking down all the statues of like Confederate leaders and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's wrong. I think it's not a bad idea. The only other thing is like, what are you going to do with them? Right? What are you going to put up in its place? One, I want to know. Like, so you can't just take stuff out. You got to put stuff in, right?
Yeah.
You got to replace it with good stuff. But then also, where's that line? You going to take down Mount Rushmore?
Heck, right? I think somebody posted the other day, like you were talking about true racism. Look at Hollywood. Hollywood's been one of the most racist places. Take down the Hollywood sign if you're really going to be that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so and I'm not saying that they shouldn't take it down. I think that there are some definite things that are just, clear signs of bigotry and racism.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
But what I am saying is, I was listening to this Native American podcast, or he was on a podcast, and he was saying one thing that they could do is just re-educate.
Oh, absolutely.
On that, right? So, Robert E. Lee statue, okay, you want to leave it up, take it down, whatever, put it in a museum, but then change the placard and say, hey, this was a general on the Confederate side, and this is the bad stuff that he did, and this is stuff we don't want to, re-educate versus glorify, or whatever it is.
I've always said this. I think, man, we just did a 360 big
we
time.
Did. Let's go.
Okay. I think the crazy thing about all this is this. Like, if history wasn't told by a specific race, and history was told in a real truthful, transparent way, then number one, we probably wouldn't even have most of these statues up. And number two, I think if we had these statues up, there'd be a better understanding and more so not the outcry we have now. Because a lot of, like I was watching this thing on these two ladies, I forgot their names, but after the South lost, they made it a point to create like this social club that would continue to keep the Southern South, what it stood for with slavery, like keep that history continuously going. And they paid all this money to have a lot of these statues across the United States. Yeah. So the thing is that when you've grown up to believe that our forefathers were these amazing men that came over here.
They're men.
That just fought for American freedom. When you look at how the history books were told to us in school, it's completely not even 100%. It's told in a way that's so deceiving. So then when you like you think about it right now, like when you're a 19, 20-year-old and you see what happened with George Floyd, and then even in your last 5-6 years of adolescence, you've seen from Trayvon to a lot of these other issues, and then you finally go to college and you find out that Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner and slept with his slaves, like now you're like, wait, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
I feel completely lied to. I feel completely like I've been bamboozled. I'm angry. I'm rage. I don't want to see that no more because all that represents is the lies that I've been told. And I get that component. I think this is absolutely right. I think that we need to start telling history from a transparent perspective.
It's hard though, right? Because winners write the history books.
Always.
And then, there's that saying, there's my story, his story, and then there's real story, right? And so there's always going to be a human spin on it. But I think here's one thing that is encouraging, right? Is the ability to get the knowledge is far more accessible now than it has ever been. So if you are really passionate about like something's legitimately making you outraged, or you're just passionate about something, a subject matter in history or whatever, you can go look it up now. There's no reason to be ignorant anymore. And so,
I mean, what's to say about our this, Y and X generation is that they're actually starting to pick up history books and doing research on stuff that was possibly denied to them. And now there's an outrage and I know for some people, like there's some people out there that feels like history's history, and regardless if it's good or bad, always respect it. And I kind of understand that perspective because I try to do my hardest to understand everyone's perspective. But if you're on the winning side of history and you're reaping the benefits of it and you're having a privileged life because of it, then you if you're going to be that open-minded to that to the winning side of history, then you should be that much open-minded to the losing side of history, or the people who feel like there's been injustices or that there's been parts of their lives that haven't been acknowledged. Because again, like I just, history is my favorite subject. I was telling you, like I still take like World War II and like Vietnam quizzes just to see if I can get 100, right? And like I love history and I love every aspect of history. And even some of the people that I've looked up in history, you come to realize like, oh my God, like they weren't the greatest people on earth. And so like it's just one of those situations where, and I always say this, right now, I could discover the cure for cancer and save everybody, right? Okay. But then the next day I go out there and kill a child in cold blood for no reason. So no matter what I did to change the world, that's my legacy. I killed somebody.
Do you think so?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because unfortunately, your own, and I tell this to Josh every day, that's why you have to make conscious decisions on what you do. You're only as good as your last best decision. So now I also believe
you're only as good as your best last decision. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So meaning that.
So because you killed somebody after you
especially
got the cancer.
And I'm not saying in the sense of like, I'm saying something horrific. Like I want to just kill a kid for no reason because I'm just an evil person. You know what I mean? I just like that's what's going to stand. And so like we also have to look at it from that component too. That just because I wrote the Constitution, doesn't mean that I should just be remembered for that. Especially if I was raping, abusing slaves, or you see what I'm saying. So like we have to be able to like, and it just goes back to where we are in this world is like. Nobody wants to have these conversations anymore because they're uncomfortable, right? Like I'm uncomfortable.
Do you think that's why this is why people are so interested on conspiracy theories and like the untold stories? Like I love that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
is this why?
Oh, absolutely, because there's so much untold stories. Like think about this. What I knew when I was 10 years old has completely changed in the last 20 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So like there's stuff that I did not know that I'm like, oh my God, how did I not know that? Like, just when you look back about how like our own government was testing, human beings, like you never thought that could even be, because think about this. When you grow up, you think that like the Germans or the communist Russians were the ones doing horrible, horrific experiments on their own people. And you find out, well, shit, we've been doing this in our own backyard. Yeah. Like we might have even created this influx of let's just, do experiments and things on that. But like, that's just it. Like, I think that it's easier to get up every day. And I look at Americans as I look as human beings. It's easier to get up every day and just be self-righteous to the point where you fail to realize the role you play, or you don't take accountability in your own actions and things that you say and do. I think that that's how America is a lot of times. I think that we don't address and acknowledge our own, I guess you could say, crimes that we've committed against human beings. I mean, it's so funny we talk about the Native Americans, man. I always feel bad about the Native Americans because I look at, for a lot of Native Americans, especially on reservations, like how bad alcoholism, depression, and suicide is. And that's because of generational pain that's never addressed from, I mean, the god awful things that's happened to these tribes of people. And so, you think about how it's so easy to get up every day and be like, man, my life sucks. But like, you think about like, and then I was just reading the other day about domestic violence is so big on these reservations because you have men that can't tap into their feelings of depression. And as you get older, you're more likely.
Circle.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
good.
So like you get more and more caught up in not being able to express yourself. You have all these emotions, you have all these burdens that's weighed on your heart. And then like, you take it out and you lash out against your spouse. And so like, it's sad that everything affects everything. Yeah. In some form, some fashion. Positive, negative. If you surround yourself with good people.
You try to. I think that's what I'm learning. Like, I used to hate it when people go, hey, your 5 best friends are who you are. I used to hate that. I used to be like, nah, that's I'm who I am. Like, these are my boys.
That's
and
who
like,
I am.
But I'm not gonna lie, the older I get, the more I can see how that's true. Just the stuff that some of my circle, and I've moved in different circles, but some of my friends will speak, they'll gossip, like my gossip friends, and they'll talk about people and different events. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I got other friends who talk about like this stuff, right? Mental health. We'll talk politics. Good conversation.
Yeah, we did like a 360.
Yeah, we did, right? And and that's not to say that those friends are, less friends than you and I or anything, but it's just those circles are just different circles. You know what I mean? And I definitely feel elevated when I get to have conversations with you or people like you. Especially, we're talking about mental health, and it came full circle. I love how you always do that. So let me ask you this, and this will be kind of the last topic here is, why is it so hard for men specifically to seek therapy, to seek help? In your experience?
The ideal to be affected by emotions, we've been taught that emotions is not a manly thing. We've been taught that showing emotions, crying, having insecurity, fears, that's for the weak.
Where did the stigma come from, though? Especially in the minority cultures?
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I don't know if they ever told me this specifically or if I just caught this from the culture, but just, if you were going to go see a therapist, I mean, you were an outcast. What's wrong with you? Like, you can't self-regulate? Or you're a pansy,
I think, like, this, we're getting back to history again. Let's just give you an example of, like, when you look at, like, slavery, for instance.
Okay.
A lot of, we know that a lot of...
a little bit closer.
Sorry. A lot of husband and wives were separated during slavery, right? Yeah. So the women would have the kids and the men would be separated and they would never see their spouse ever again, right? So then there became a greater fear with women, especially when they're raising their boys, to like, you can't cry, you can't show no emotion. You just got to keep moving forward, because if you don't move forward, then maybe you won't survive, right? I've always felt that translates for a lot of people. I think, and we can look at in any type of culture where, especially historically speaking, where we've been taught in order to overcome the challenges, obstacles, or hardships of life, if you sit there and talk about it or you cry about it, right, all you're doing is delaying, the reality of you just got to push through. And so with that being said, I think we've totally misinterpreted what pushing through means. pushing through means to take a step back and evaluate how you're feeling, because there's no way that you can push through something if you're not emotionally healthy and balanced. And so
I'm just processing.
So if you keep just going and pushing through, but you're not embracing your fears, your insecurities, your grief, your sadness, all you're doing is holding it in to the point where you're going to end up erupting. And you're actually going to, all the 5 steps that you took, you're going to take 25 steps backwards, because you didn't embrace and deliberate how you truly were feeling. And that's another thing too. I think for a lot of us men, we associate feelings with women as that's feminine. When truth be told, emotions is the most masculine thing that if we're going to put masculinity, like, you want to be a real man, expressing your feelings, being able to embrace those feelings and be able to say, whether it's to you as my friend or to my wife, I'm not in a good place today. I'm that's part of the process, is I feel ashamed even feeling this way, but I'm going to even feel more ashamed if I don't tell you that I feel sad today or I'm scared.
That's such an evolved thing to say.
Oh, absolutely.
It's interesting they say, emotions equate to women or just feminism.
It's just so untrue. You know what I mean?
Do you think it's all emotions or just the feminine emotions? Sadness.
Well, see, that's just it. But like, how can sadness be a feminine?
Well, one, it's not fair.
It's not definitely not fair.
And why do they get? They're the only ones that get to be sad.
Right. That's right? Another thing. Yeah. Right. But like I think that's just it, because again, we always try to say, don't cry, be a man. Like, how many times you've been told, like, hey, man up? What the hell does manning up mean? Like, is manning up meaning that you personally, as another dude, don't want to hear what I'm going through or how I'm feeling because you don't want to deal with your feelings? Is that what manning up is? Or is manning up really taking a step back and saying, you know what, I am scared as hell. I don't feel comfortable in my own body right now. I don't know what's the best decision in my life, or, man, you know what?
God, I've been tackling with some of that stuff lately. I know you have too.
Beyond, because it's hard. And speaking out loud about it, I've made effort more so than ever before in my life to speak out about it, because I spent so many years trying to get away from a family that was constantly depressed and sad and just emotionally unbalanced, that I made it a point in my life to go out there and help people who can't help themselves.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm hit with some shortcomings in my life. And because I wasn't expressing myself and I wasn't embracing, because I felt like I needed to man up and move on, and I get hit with depression, not even know it. And then you're like, and that's what people don't realize, is like,
it creeps up.
It creeps up. And the easiest thing in this world that you can do is be depressed. Besides getting fast food, the easiest thing you can do is get depressed.
It leads to depression.
That definitely leads to depression. But the hardest thing is coming out of depression, because it's a sunken place. It's like a well, that you fall into, that you just seem like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, especially if you can't embrace how you're feeling. So that's why, like, the scary thing, and I say this to a lot of men out there, is like as you get older, 30 and up, like I think it's like 35 and up is when the suicide rate goes up even higher for men. Right?
Really?
I think about it. Like, it's just more men kill themselves than women. It's just a real.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a real statistic, especially as we get older. Because as you get older, also too, because you're not sharing your feelings, you're not sharing your emotions, and there's also a chemical imbalance too. You're losing your testosterone, your ability to go out there and work out and try to work through things. Like, there's so many components that go into it. And the sad thing too, like, for a lot of men out there who are divorced, who can't find somebody else, enter at this age, it does become depressing. You don't have someone.
I guess at 35, you're also, because so many of us equate manhood to our jobs again.
Yeah.
At 35, you're 15, 20 years into the workforce, and you're either where you want to be or you're not.
You're not. And
a lot of us aren't.
And not a lot of us are not. And I always used to think that was the funniest thing. I used to think it was crazy. Like, a woman would be like, all right, by the time I'm 20 years old, I've already found the love of my life. And by the time I'm 22, I'm going to be married. And by the time I'm 24, I'll have my first kid.
Yeah.
And then and it's just, you hear these things, especially if you're a young guy and you're like talking to a girl that's in her 20s and you're in your 20s, you're like, girl, like, why are you putting a timeline on your life?
Facts.
What we fail to realize is that men also self-consciously put a timeline in their life. They see a man thinks in their 20s.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's fun. Let me enjoy life. By the time I'm in my 30s, I'll be ready to get married and I'll be at where I need to be for my career.
Yes.
But for many of us men, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then guess what we're doing? We're getting up every day and going to a job where we're unhappy. We're lucky enough, some of us, to find the dime piece that you wanted, right?
Yeah.
And now you've been told, like, I gotta man up, I gotta go and do this job, I gotta make these sacrifices, even though it's not what I want, because where I thought I was gonna be the CEO of Google, I'm only working at, hell, I don't know, like you're a manager at Target, which is not a bad thing. Shout out to anybody who's a manager at Target. Y'all be working. What I'm saying is, like, you already had in your own man timeline where you were going to be, and you associated success with money and houses, like, all these different things, and you're not there, so you're right back to square one. You're without even knowing, you're beating yourself up daily. You're downing yourself. You're feeling insecure.
That self-talk is.
That self-talk is the worst because it's usually an unfair talk. That's why it's so important as men. In order for us to start talking about our feelings more and to get past these things, we have to start talking to each other.
This is why I'm really appreciative of you and why I asked you to come back, because this past month has been challenging in its own way for me and everything. I know it is for you as well. And we've been able to continue to connect. And I told you in the beginning, taking compliments is not something that I'm good at. And you're very giving at it, but I selfishly also know that you do it. And so I'm working on having you around because you help build me in a way so that I can be better. Because I know you're not bullshitting me, right? I know if you give me a compliment, it's out of love, and likewise, right? Like I tell you how much I appreciate you, how proud I am of you. That's facts. And I think we need to do more of that for each other. And just on wax, on tape, you got me through like a lot of stuff. Just indirectly. And so,
I think we got each other through a lot of stuff and not even know it, man.
That's facts.
That's
facts.
I told you, like, the best thing that could have happened out of 2020 was meeting you. Like, I've always always known you, but like to like fully become friends with you. I think that us men, we have to get back to, go back to history. I just think about how tribes would come together around the fire and they would work stuff out and they would talk to each other and they would talk about life and share stories. Like, we don't do that as men anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think the tribe analogy is good too, because I was thinking about that during this conversation. And I was thinking about, hunter-gatherer days, right?
Yeah.
When you go out, you go hunt for your meal. There's no refrigerators. So once you got the meal and you got the food that you need, you're done. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but you're done. You come back, you eat. You share the spoils and you spend time with the tribe and the family, right? And then when you need to, you go back out. And now there's this, at least in my position right now, one of the things I'm combating or challenging in myself is the idea of being financially comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Or what does that even mean right now? And in my mind, for some reason, I have this number and I've been letting it go. Right. Yeah. And so Taylor's been great about it. Elijah, and she's, Taylor's I'm so glad our relationship is, we were friends first because I know she's down for me. And like before I had any of the successes that I've had, she's down to eat ramen with me. She's down to eat hot dogs with me if we had to, you know what I mean? I'm sure Daisy's the same way. So
absolutely.
And she's, she's not asking anymore like, hey, are we gonna be okay? It really is, hey, we got this, right? Like, we're going to do this together. And one of the dads at the Cool Dad Forum was like, my son didn't even care about all the cool gifts I gave him. He just wanted time with me. He just wanted, it doesn't matter if it's a pair of Nikes. It's just a pair of shoes that he got from me, or like the same shoe, whatever it is. It's crazy what kids think. And in my mind, it's so Asian. Just like be miserable, stack cash, get guap. And then 15 years from now or 18 years from now when Elijah goes to college and he's good to go, my job is done, right? But man, it's so weird spending time with him this past month, and we're at the studio tonight and he was dancing and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is my little man's. And I'm realizing like before, if you asked me what I want to do, it was like CEO of some company. I wouldn't mind it. But now if you told me I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to make decent wage and, you know, take care of the family and spend time with them, I'm good with that. I'm fine with it. And that's scary because it's not a step back, but it's definitely a shift in priorities.
Yeah.
And that causes friction at work. I'm not working any less hard. I'm not slacking or anything. But I also know I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. right now to get hours in when I don't have to. I'm here talking to you for Elijah instead of being on my laptop right now, crunching numbers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because to me, this is more important for him to see this. And, you know, 2 years ago, I would have been working all night.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In as it correlates with your job right now, right? Like, do you find yourself when you're at your job being the best manager and leader you can be? You still find yourself daydreaming about pursuing something that has to do with your passions?
That's a great question, and I think that's something I'm still deliberating. Mm-hmm. Right. And so for me, everything I do, I gamify. Right. And so even though I'm, you know, not in the military anymore, my mind is, what's the mission today? And 10 times out of 10, my mission is, how am I going to help out whoever's in front of me today? Right. So it doesn't even matter if it's in the retail space and public stores or the army. So I can say, did I give you value today? And I'll be good with it. You know what I mean? But like I'm going back to school hopefully in a couple of weeks. Thank you. You and Daisy motivated me to go back to school and to make some changes.
I'm about to be a CEO.
So, you know, I want to go back to get my MBA so that I could take on more responsibilities in different areas. Mm-hmm. So that I could be the better leader for my people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And ultimately, you want to be a better leader for your people. But why do you want to be a better leader? What's the end game?
I don't know if there's any end game. Maybe we're talking through this right now. I just feel like that's a cornerstone of who I am. Is I want to make sure that anyone around me is taken care of.
So you want to help other people?
I do.
Even people you don't know. Yes. So ultimately, without you even knowing, you daydream about helping other people.
It's true. So and I'm able to do it in my job. Like that's how I'm able to focus, right? Yeah. I gamify like I'm helping this person out or helping this. If I help them, they'll be able to help out a customer, take care of whatever. Right. But yeah, I mean, I am going back to school, hopefully with a focus in like like healthcare administration, right? And so I can get into a different field so that I can directly help people.
Because ultimately you think about helping other people.
It's true.
Because truth be told, like you find value and happiness of helping people who can't help themselves or people who just need guidance so they can better their lives.
Let me flip that on you then. So you're being super creative now. Yeah. You're definitely helping people lately. I'll give you that. What's in your cornerstone? Like what's isn't that phrase right? The cornerstone of your character or like, you know, what is your driving force?
My driving force is to finally embrace and accept the daydreams I've had. Those 16 hours a day where actually as a case manager, I would have my office by this window and I would see outside. And I'd always think like, I'm helping people, but I feel like I could be doing way more.
What do you mean more?
Like I'd come home and think of it all these different ways, like all these creative ways to just help people get their dreams out there, right? Yeah. Because I believe everybody has a dream, but no one knows the right steps to that dream. Not to say that, you know, obviously I'm in a place where I can like show people, hey, look what happened to me. Like, you know, but I've always felt like, and I've always been good at helping other people find their path. And
you just did it with me.
Well, I don't necessarily, you already had the path. You just needed a little push.
You helped me out.
You already knew what you wanted to do. You just had to come to a point where you're accepting it, like me. Like, you just had to come to a point where, like, you know what, like, I like that this gate is a step to ultimately something bigger and better for me, because ultimately, if you're looking outside the window in your life and you're daydreaming about something bigger and better, or something more you could be doing to impact the world with your talents that God has given you, then that is God telling you you are not at the right place.
Yeah, and that's tough.
That is tough.
It's tough. And here's the reason why I say it's tough, and I think you'll be able to relate to this, is it's tough when you are not in the lane that you think you're supposed to be in, and the lane that you're in, you're excelling, you're doing well, getting recognized, moving up, whatever it is, that's your motivator, pat on the back, whatever it is. And, you know, for me, I've continued to move up in the corporate world, and I've worked really hard for it. And you guys have helped me realize, you know, I can take those skills and apply them to a different field or industry that's truly going to help other people. And that's shit crazy. So that's something that I've had to grapple with this past month, and even now I'm just speaking about learning, is not feeling like I've wasted the last 5 years, but really trying to take it as lessons learned to apply, and I'll have a different perspective and a more mature, hopefully, mind, in whatever new industries I go towards. But, you know, as a case manager, I can't imagine that you were slacking. I mean,
hell no, but if I did, I was going to be there longer. That's for sure.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like you were helping people. You're getting recognized. There are little spurts of you seeing someone get the things that they need.
Yo, absolutely. And that was such a pleasure, especially when, man, I have endless stories. I think I'm going to write about like my life for being in psych for like 12 years, like the crazy stories, but the things you see and the people you help and the people you that no matter what you do,
but do you think that reinforces, I mean, if you hadn't got laid off, do you think that reinforces you staying in that role for longer?
I think if I didn't get laid off, as far as, well, I put it this way, I kept looking to get out of case management to do marketing, because ultimately, anybody that's talked to me the last 5 years, I wanted to create some type of creative firm that would absolutely help minorities get their dreams like out there, like to help. You have a great product, or you have a great game plan, or you already kind of established your branding, but you just need to be sculpted to where it can be successful. I've always wanted to do that, because I've met so many people who have like the most brilliant ideals, but just couldn't put it together. So I've always thought about that and always dreamed about that. In many ways, me being in mental health was also a way for me to low-key, secretly help my family and understand my family generationally, what they've been going through. But at the same time, I asked you a couple of weeks ago when I was trying to run the track with you.
No, you were running.
I asked you, like,
shirt off and
how hard
let's go.
How hard? Trust me, nobody was. It looked like a turkey glistening in the sun. It was horrible. Anyways.
What does that even mean?
That's why I felt like I had a turkey body that day. Okay. Hey, my question to you
I'll gobble you up.
Oh, man. Do it? I'm playing today. But I asked you when we were running, and there's a reason why I asked you, was boot camp really hard? Do you remember that question?
I do.
You remember the answer you gave me?
Kind of. And I think I prefaced it with, my story in the Army was a little bit different, so I didn't go through boot, right? But Army training in general, my experience is it's never been about being hard physically. It's, as long as you're in the right place at the right time, with the can-do attitude, and you're there for your team, you'll get through it. Is that what I said?
You did. At first you're like, oh, I didn't need boot camp because I was
I did not. Don't do that.
Like,
Don't
I had
do that.
like, he said he had a 9-pack. I never even seen that before.
Yeah, it's my head.
But no, but you did say exactly that. But what I probably should have asked you was how essential was training?
Oh, I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But it's essential. It's the foundation.
It's a foundation of as a soldier.
Right.
So
right.
That's what we've been doing right now. What you've been doing right now without you knowing, and what I've been doing the last couple of years, we've been in boot camp.
Yeah. Okay.
We've been training. So now we can really be where we need to be as men. So
let me ask you this then, right? And I think this is a good way to kind of wrap everything up is you talk about boot camp, fundamentals, foundation for manhood, nay, I say fatherhood. Right? And one of the analogies I always use, especially in like my seminars and stuff, is, NBA players do the same warm-ups that the Pee Wee kids do.
Yeah.
They still dribble, they still pass, they still do layups, they still do free throws. What makes a pro is not that they are winning slam dunk contests, it's that the fundamentals are so strong. What's the phrase is like, pros don't do it till they get it right, they do it till they can't get it wrong. Right? So taking that into manhood, into fatherhood, what would you say are a couple fundamental things, foundational things that men need to practice consistently, either with each other or for themselves, so that we can continue to be professionals?
I think the number one thing that I've learned just in the last 6-7 years is how important sharing with one another, like our stories.
Okay, I like that.
I think sharing with each other our adversities, our triumphs, are crucial because we're all going to come across the same fight, right?
Yeah.
So how we share our stories and how we tell our stories is crucial for the next man up.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
I think sharing with one another is crucial. I think just being honest and transparent, not just with your best friends or your partner in life, but with yourself. Being transparent, not harping on yourself and not beating yourself up, but being honest with yourself. And what I mean by that is saying, today, Chris, you're not the best version of yourself. Chris, you could approach this differently. And Chris, you know what? You probably could have been a little bit more confident in your life, but let's figure out why.
See, I think, I'm going to jump in for a second. I like how you approach that conversation, right? And so you did a couple of things in there that I want to break down because I think it's important when we talk about self-talk, is you didn't just say you weren't the best today. You actually analyzed why you weren't the best, a couple courses of action on how to be better, and then you could measure that the next day. As opposed to today, which just wasn't my day.
Right. See how much better that sounds?
Right. But yeah. I think it's important that people understand that you did that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to just stop at the first was, I didn't do so hot today. Okay, so sharing, being honest with everyone and yourself. Maybe one more. What's a fundamental, a foundational piece do you think we need to be actively practicing?
Loving yourself.
Okay.
We talk about self-care.
Yeah.
Loving yourself. I think it's more apparent than ever before that men are getting up every day, not valuing their selves, their mind, bodies, and souls. They're feeling worthless. And I think self-worth is so important. And self-care is a big part of that. You have to, listen, as much as I can point out every little flaw that I have from, where I'm at financially to just even body-wise, you know what I mean? It's if I need to be able to say, you know what, even through all that, man, these are all the wonderful things that I love about myself. Because if you can't love yourself, the job of your dreams is not going to be able to love you. And the love of your life is not going to be able to love you.
Facts.
And most importantly, the children that you want to be better versions of you can't do that because you can't teach them how to love themselves the right way.
Yeah.
So I think loving yourself is so key. And I think a lot of men don't understand that. Loving yourself and understanding and valuing yourself and your self-worth is crucial. I think it's crucial for not just men, but for women. We're living in a world where we're just so critical of ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't even think about it. Like, I feel uncomfortable when people give me compliments, and I've told you that. I know you feel uncomfortable with it.
Still.
And the reasons why is because you haven't gotten comfortable enough with loving yourself.
That's true, man. It's, the pod's really new still, and somebody recently was giving me some love on it. And for some reason, my first words out were, it's really new, I'm still learning. Which is true, but for some reason I felt like I had to minimize it or devalue it a little bit before I could take in the compliment. I couldn't just, that's why I really look up to, who's really good at it is, I did the interview with Sean from Glenn, and I was giving comments, and he was so good at just saying thank you. And I was like, I think some people get worried that, it comes off big headed, but when Sean did it, I was like, he understands that he has something valuable, that I'm giving him something honest and true, a good compliment. He's saying thank you. And I'm really working to get to thank you and just going, and that's it. And not feeling like I have to reciprocate.
Right.
Right. Just saying thank you. Right.
Just say thank you.
Yeah.
And I will say this too. A big part of the complexities of men is getting up every day not feeling like we're man enough or good enough. They're both coexist. So
enough or good enough.
Yes.
Okay.
So we all want to feel like we're man enough to handle the situation. It's equivalent. It's the exact same thing of saying, I just want to feel good about myself. I want to feel like I have value in life. Like, we all want to feel value.
Yeah.
But you will never be able to get value from others, and you'll never be able to even embrace the value that you give to others until you just embrace your own values. And don't get me wrong, to get up every day and say, man, you know what? I really like my eyes. I really like my nose. I really like my ears. I actually feel like I'm actually happy that I don't have weirdly shaped nipples. It sounds funny and crazy, but
I'm laughing in my mind because you have perfect nipples.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I've worked hard on my nipples. Maybe. I don't know.
Your nipples are hard. Good.
But it's just like, it goes back to the whole getting up every day. And if you can't get up every day and say one positive thing about yourself, how can you expect the world to see you in a positive light?
Yeah.
That's honestly and it's getting up every day. See, today I'm going to make the best out of the day. I'm going to be the best version of myself. I'm going to go the extra mile. Maybe it's something you saw yesterday you could have done to improve, that you're like, you know what, today I'm going to challenge and I'm going to clean up this mess. Or I'm going to go out there today and, you know what, I see this coworker every day. I never talk to them. I'm going to make a point to just go up to him and be like, hey, how are you doing? It's getting every day and challenging yourself. When we say being a better version of yourself, but it starts with loving yourself first. Like, I love Chris. Chris, I love you so much, because even when you don't want to get up out of the bed, you still find a way to get up out of the bed. Yeah. Like that's such positive reinforcement. Yeah. And it's self-care. It's mental self-care. Yeah. It really is.
I would say if someone else is going through those thoughts and everything and depression, taking it day by day is important. I would even take it hour by hour.
Take it second by second.
Right.
Hell
and
yeah.
I would say, if it's different for everybody, but I'll just share kind of what helped me out recently is just the idea of being better than yesterday wasn't always, sometimes, but wasn't always fixing what I did yesterday. Sometimes if it was, I did 5 good things yesterday, doing 6 today, and just ignoring all the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. Just focusing on the positivity, and it's different for everybody. But I will say there are a lot of things that go into the mental health space. I hope we can have more conversations on it.
Absolutely.
I was really big on just making sure my physical was going positive to help out my mental, my spirituals. That's why we went running and you worked out with me. We went out last month and just getting really active, just trying to get the juices flowing again. And that's helped out a lot too. But I think the three things you said were phenomenal.
No, thank you. And by all means, I'm not an expert. I'm just learning. And I think too, as we're learning, sharing the processes with each other. That's why sharing is so important, because I wish that somebody would have shared this with me 5 years ago. Or 6 years ago. So that's why now, and I told you this story. That was you. I think it was Josh. I was telling Josh the other day, I said, you know what the worst thing about getting old is as you get older, like you have a lot more wisdom, right? So you feel the need to share it. Okay. Yeah. You feel the need that you have to share it with everybody, to the point now you feel like you're getting the reaction from younger people the same way when you were younger, that you gave that reaction to the older person. You try to school you on something. You're like, what the fuck is this old person talking to me about? Man, I don't know what my life. Like, so I feel like I'm in that place now at 38 where I'm like, I just want to when I discover something, or I found something that works better for me, or I want to share a story that maybe help other people, I feel like that old guy wearing those old ass sneakers that you want to buy.
I want those sneakers so bad.
I forgot what those.
Put them on the screen.
Yeah, we'll put them on the screen. Please, in the comment section, please tell Andrew not to buy these things.
They're in the closet right now.
You did buy them? Oh my God. I feel like the old guy in sweatpants and those old dad shoes, just like, hey, you gotta do this and you gotta do that, and that's how you're gonna live, and just like
Jewish when you get old.
I guess so, maybe. Like you get to the point where like you don't want to feel like that old person. So I'm also trying to find ways to be able to like just find more ways to not tell people how they should live life, but more so just relate to people. And I think too, like that's a key about sharing. And that's the first thing I talked about, is like, because once you're sharing, then you can allow people to feel relatable to you. Yeah. And then without you even telling them they should follow this path, they're understanding the path that they need to follow. And I think that's important. So I'm trying to find that balance too, because again, I don't want to be that old guy screaming at somebody, you're good for this and you're that for that, and some cliche thing. You're just like, what are you talking about, old man? Right. I don't want to be that old dad, but it's inevitable.
It is what it is. I'll end this with how we normally end our conversations and on the phone calls lately. I love you.
I love you too, man. Absolutely, man. Next